Jason Roth, Keystone Agronomist with a crop consideration. It's early, I haven't had enough sleep, I haven't had any coffee yet, and I haven't had breakfast, so I'm a little irritable right now. And since I'm kind of stressing, let me talk about the stress that our crops are going to be under given the next 7 to 10 days of really hot weather. What? For me? Hey, look at this. Breakfast has arrived. Let me pause for 5 minutes. I'll come right back. Thanks. Oh man, the wonders of a little coffee and food makes me way less irritable. Sorry about my attitude earlier. Now, let's talk about the stress that our crop is under since my stress has been relieved. All right, so as we enter on hot, dry weather, we're much more likely to see issues in our fields. We can see one of those issues right here in this field. What do we see right here? We see an uneven stand. And what that is that's tillage traffic, right? The tires there compress the soil. And so we're much more likely to see problems with our crops as we get this hot, dry weather. One of those being compaction related to tillage passes or planting that was done in conditions that were a little too wet. Another issue could be with young corn that got planted a little bit later, is the establishment of the roots could really struggle. The nodal roots not getting established in hot, dry weather, we can call that floppy corn syndrome, where the corn falls over, right? I talked about that last year, so I won't belabor it. But those are two challenges we may see revealing, right, in our crops right now. Another thing that we can shift towards is nutrient-related issues. Hot, dry weather, we're much more likely to see deficiencies in our corn and soybeans, right? So, for example, last year and this year, we're much more likely to see potassium deficiency showing up if our soil test K levels are borderline, and we just don't have enough water for uptake, especially as corn gets to grand growth. Much more likely to see K deficiency. Much more likely to see sulfur deficiency in corn and soybeans. In beans, much more likely to see manganese deficiency. So seeing some nutrient deficiencies is a real deal as we get into hot, dry weather. Another thing that we want to think about is just as we post-apply, right? Herbicides. Herbicides are going to struggle more in hot, dry weather to control weeds because weeds are hardening off. And so sometimes we mess with adjuvant loads or change our adjuvant loads to try to help bring more weed control. But then the flip side of that risk is crop response. And so we want to think about strategies maybe to mitigate or help with crop response as we get in this hot, dry weather. Number one, we could change application timing. If we don't have a ton of acres to apply, it can help us to apply in the morning hours when it's cooler, not so stressful compared to the peak afternoon heat, right? Now that may not be practical if we got a lot of acres to spray. So what else can we do? Hey, we can change spray volume. If we're living in that lower spray volume world, maybe 15 gallon per acre, increasing to 20 gallon per acre, that will help alleviate some of the phytotoxicity by having more water. Another thing is thinking about how many products we're pouring into the tank, right? We also want to make use of those passes that we make in our fields and put as much in the tank as we possibly can, right? Well, as we get to hot, dry weather, that increases our risks. So the best thing we can do strategically is separate our herbicide passes for weed control and maybe our plant health passes, nutritional passes separately, because if we start combining more products, and that can be a temptation sometime, hey, our crop's going to be under stress, let's put some more goodies in the tank to try to help protect it. Well, that actually can work against you because you increase the burn to the crop by pouring more things in the tank. And so just want to caution against that as a strategy because it can actually backfire and lead to more crop injury. And so those are some strategies to think about as we enter this hot, dry weather. And lastly, just want to say, hey, don't panic. We've had hot, dry weather in May, June. We've been dry the last 2 years, and we've had fantastic crops. Why? Because it's moisture that comes in July and August and September that really makes grain. So the last thing I'd say is we don't need to panic too much right now with the hot, dry weather. It'll be okay. Hopefully when we get into those key reproductive time frames, the moisture will come. Have a great day. Take care.